Hey, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are right now in the world. Thank you so much for being here. And my name is JM Cruz, and this is Zero Hour Discussions. Right now, I do have a special guest, a very special guest that I really look up to as far as content creating is concerned. Quite frankly, he actually, or at least his content, saved my life as far as being a content creator is. And let's go ahead and welcome author and also film critic, probably a big film fan as well, the critical drinker, Will Jordan. How are you doing, good sir?
I'm good, thanks, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing fine, a bit tired, but I'm here, still alive.
Sometimes
And
that's the best you can say.
yeah, because I started work around 12 hours ago and nonstop until right now. So this is my live stream. Probably also the last live stream I have for the year. And what a way to end it with someone I actually admire and also inspired me to do this. But yeah, let's go ahead and ask a few questions, critical drinker. Well, what do you do nowadays besides your internet content? I know you also wrote the call this you also had some books that you've written, and you're
Yeah,
an
that's right.
author, right? Ryan Drake, if I remember.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I divide my time between making YouTube content and writing novels. So I've
Yep.
written a series of action thrillers, like you say, called the Ryan Drake series,
Mm.
and yeah, I'm about to move into some new stuff next year where I'm going to be releasing a standalone thriller that's going to be called Dark Harvest. So, ironically enough, it's about a global pandemic. so, and yeah, it's weird because I actually started it long before any of this stuff kicked off. Just bad luck, I suppose. And then, yeah, I may be doing like a non-fiction book about movies, which is kind of appropriate considering what I do.
Considering what you do you also have any or have you thought of directing your own movie as well? No.
Well, I mean, if you want to lend me $100 million, I'll give it a go, man.
Probably you try to crowdsource or fund this one. I think you have that much of a fan base, including me. Probably also pitch in. But yeah, I'm really happy to have you here. So let's go ahead and discuss some stuff regarding modern entertainment, which I think at this point sucks. But yeah, well, what do you think is the main issue that we have right now as far as entertainment that we're having, movies, series as well? It seems like ever since mid 2010 or at least 2010 started, seems like everything's going downhill as far as quality of movies and also story writing is concerned. What do you think is the issue?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pin it down to one thing, I would say it's the message. It's probably the biggest issue. It just, I've never been a fan of like constraining artistic freedom
Mm.
for the sake of appealing to politics or whatever, and that's really what you get now with movies. They're tied up in so many rules about what they can and can't do that it really kills your ability to tell a story. And that combined with like the Marvel model of just producing safe, reliable, inoffensive films,
Mhm.
that you can just roll out in a big cinematic universe, it's really killed the creativity and originality of movie making.
Yeah. Um, as far as politics also is concerned, why do you think the producers, or at least people like Disney and Warner Brothers or any big label company, are allowing these things to happen? Because obviously, most of these stuff tend to turn off fans as well, so they lose revenue, but they still continue on doing it. Why do you think this is?
I think for the most part, because things like social media and most journalistic outlets, most news companies, most movie reviewers, at least the professional ones, they all lean a certain way. And so those are the people that I guess they feel they need to appeal to and placate. And that's the reason that movies are the way they are. They can ignore the fans up to a point because they're still making enough money from these movies that it doesn't affect their bottom line. But obviously, the longer this goes on, the more people get turned off by films, and the more it does start to hurt them. So I don't know if it's a gradual build-up. Slowly, they realize that if they stop doing this, people will be a lot happier.
Yeah, because I myself, if I wasn't able to watch your content, Maulers and also Neurotic, I would be one of those people like, yeah, it's just acceptable for me to watch whatever has a brand, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
Like big names, especially DC, since I'm a big Batman fan.
Hmm.
But um, ever since Marvel launched Captain Marvel, that seemed to turn me off because this wasn't the Captain Marvel that I know in comics. It's far different. And it's like they did something there that shouldn't even be part of her image. And then I watched funny enough I watched the Force Awakens. That seems to be a bit good, at least for my standards. And also when the Last Jedi was launched, and that was the time where I was doubting myself, or at least questioning myself, is this still the same Star Wars that I've known and loved since the 80s? Because I'm a big fan of the original trilogy. And um, question here is, why do you think that they keep on doing this, destroying our heroes, replacing it with someone else that's not even part of the lore? Let's say for an established franchise like Star Wars, they destroyed Luke Skywalker, one of the most iconic heroes of all time, not just in Star Wars, but also in general in pop culture. You're replacing it with someone else that we barely know about. What do you think is the main issue here? Or at least why are they doing it?
I think because it's not enough to just kill off a character
Hmm.
and replace them with your new character who is, who's younger and cheaper to hire and can be marketed for decades to come. You have to destroy the very essence of what that original character was. So you can't just kill them off heroically. They have to be demeaned and degraded, and made to look foolish, which is exactly what they did to Luke Skywalker. They turned him into just this sad, pathetic, useless old man who's unwilling to do anything, and he's lost every heroic quality that people once looked up to,
Mm.
so that you won't feel so bad when they kill him off, and then you'll just gravitate towards their replacement. That's their thinking. In reality, all it did was just make people mad, because they could see exactly how the studio was trying to manipulate the audience into accepting Ray, just force feeding them this new character,
And
and they didn't like it.
Ray, and Ray also wasn't really a fan favorite to begin with, even when I watched Force Awakens. She didn't really have that gravita, or at least the essence that, let's say, even as Han Solo comparison with her, let alone Luke Skywalker, she doesn't have that what do you call this flair with her. It's like, why did you guys even do this in the first place? You have an established franchise, you have an established character that like Luke, Leia, and everyone else, and you decided to start with someone that don't even know.
Yeah, I
Very
think
sad.
this is something that I've talked about quite a bit
Yeah.
in my videos, just analyzing the character and where it falls down. The problem is she doesn't have a journey. Any hero should go on the hero's journey, and that means they have to overcome adversity and they have to overcome failures, and losses and difficulties, so that they become stronger people. But they didn't want to put her through any of that, and so you ended up with a character who just wins and beats everyone and is great at everything. So where's the journey for her to go on? She's already reached the end of it in the very first movie. This is why people struggle to identify with Rey,
Mm.
because everything is made easy for her. That's not storytelling. That's just
Yeah.
propaganda.
Mm. Just a question here, since you're also an author. If you were if you were the one given the opportunity to at least create Ray, what have you, what would you do right with her character?
I mean, they've got some of the good elements in The
Mm.
Force Awakens. She's an orphan. She's living alone. She misses her parents. She's got nothing really where she is. So that's fine. That part works. The biggest change I think would be that I would have Kylo Ren beat her in The Force Awakens, and it needs someone else to rescue her so she can escape. That way, it builds him up as a proper villain who's dangerous, and it gives her adversity to overcome.
So it's really all about the hero's journey. If you don't have that one, most of the time your main character will really suck.
Yeah.
Am I right?
If
Yeah.
they don't go on a journey, then what are you going to find interesting about them?
Mm. And who's your best, or at least who is the best protagonist that you've seen so far? Not limited to movies, I say in games also as well.
I mean, well, I mean, just to stick it to Star Wars for a minute, like
Mhm.
Luke himself goes on the classic hero's journey. Like every major component of that from classic literature is worked into Luke Skywalker's development.
Mhm.
He's plucked from obscurity. He goes off on a grand quest. He's got a mentor to help guide his way for part of the time. He suffers great losses and setbacks. He has to overcome them. He has to come back stronger as a wiser person and ultimately defeat his opponent. And by the end of it, he's a stronger man, but he's also a much wiser man and a compassionate man. And it's still brilliant that his final act to win against the Emperor isn't to strike him down with his lightsaber; it's to throw away his weapon and
Mhm.
refuse to join him. At the risking his own life, having no reason to believe that he can be rescued, and it's only that act of restraint that allows Darth Vader to turn back to the light and save his own son. So it's a great story, and it's a great
Great
metaphor for
arc.
people's journey through life. I
Mhm.
think, yeah, he would be your classic hero, I guess, that goes through everything.
What was also your reaction when Kylo Ren killed Han Solo? What's your take on that one?
I mean, I saw it happen, and I just thought, what the fuck? What are they doing? I mean, Ha- Harrison Ford obviously doesn't care, and it just seemed like an easy out for him, I suppose.
Mhm.
And it just felt like such a meaningless death. He's just stood there, and Kylo Ren just runs him through, and that's it. He's gone. One of the most popular characters in Star Wars history, and he just falls off a bridge and dies. Yeah, I think that's one of the points where I just realized, oh right, this isn't the Star Wars that I
Isn't-
once knew.
Yeah, because his character himself, he wouldn't even be close in doing that. So an easy out probably is the best explanation why he did it. As you said a
Yeah.
while ago, he doesn't really care much about Han Solo character at this point.
I
But it's
didn't really appreciate it at the time because the movie just kind of passed by so quickly. But the more I've thought about it over the years, the more I realized that they kind of destroyed his character throughout the whole movie anyway.
yeah.
He, in the Last Jedi, by the end, he was this great heroic character, like a brave hero of the Resistance who risks his life for his friends and,
Mm.
really proves himself to be the hero. But then when you catch up with him 30 years later, he's an old man, and he's given up on his wife and his son, and he's run away. He's just become a smuggler again. He's even wearing the same clothes. It's like they just
Yes.
reset him back to where he was at the
Mm.
beginning of A New Hope. Just absolutely no understanding of how people change over time. He just went right back to where he was at the beginning, and that's just a really crappy way to treat a character like that.
It's also very bad to see our heroes being dissected the way they're actually doing it. Very humiliating, to say the least. And any thoughts also on the upcoming Indiana Jones?
I just really wish they wouldn't make that film. I don't want to see an 80-year-old Harrison Ford hobbling around, on his bad knees. I don't want. I don't want to see Phoebe Waller-Bridge replace him and get given the hat and the bullwhip and just become like the bestest ever Indiana Jones, because that's exactly what they're going to do. I guarantee it. The whole thing just seems like a terrible idea. They should have stopped the Indiana Jones movies after the third one. There was
Mm.
nothing to be gained by doing more. They maybe could have done a fourth one back in the 90s when Harrison Ford was still pretty young, and gotten away with it then, but like they waited far too long, and now it's just ridiculous.
Any thoughts on the Crystal Skull also? Did you watch that or no?
Yeah, I watched it. Blah, is what I have to say about that one. I mean, yeah, it's not a patch on the first three.
Not
It's
even close, right? Quality wise, even story writing wise, it's not even close to the
yeah,
last one.
it's pretty. It feels lazy. It feels like, you know, it's great to see that Lucas and Spielberg were working together again, but it's like they just couldn't think of an idea to actually pursue, so they just cobbled together something. You can
Mm.
imagine them sitting together, like, what should we do this time? I don't know, aliens? Yeah, fine, whatever. And just away they go. And it was a shame because, to get indie back after such a long time, I think they waited too long, like I said. But if you're going to do it, you could have done
Do it
something
right.
really special. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, it was weird seeing Karen Allen back again as Marion.
Mm.
She was like just really old and weird. And yeah, I didn't like the whole crystal skull concept. I don't think they even really knew what they were going to do with it. It was just, this is a cool thing that people have discovered. Let's just go with that. So yeah, not a fun movie, and I never feel compelled to rewatch it. Unlike the first three, which I could happily rewatch anytime and have a great fun with.
Found some enjoyment in that one, but this was actually in first viewing before around 2008 when I had little to no knowledge about story writing.
Yeah.
It was just fun watching Indiana Jones being in the big screen again after like what 20 years.
Close to
So
20, yeah. So I think
yeah,
Last Crusade was like 1990, and
mm,
this was like 2008.
2008
So
or 9, yeah.
almost 20 years, yeah.
It was fun for me back then because number one, the tickets were for free.
Well, that helps.
We had exclusive pass to watch it in advance screening as well. And but the more that I watched it again years after, the more I realized that this isn't the same Indiana Jones as you said. This is not the same character that they've written before. It's like even a hollow shell of its former self. I agree. I hope they put an end to the upcoming project because I don't think there's not anything good coming out of that, especially him being injured and all. Just stop.
Yeah, what I've heard is they are using this delay, to rework the script, because I think there's been leaks about what's going to happen, and I got a suspicion that those leaks may be accurate. And the reaction amongst the fans has obviously been absolute disgust. And I think maybe the studio was taking that into account, and they're trying to find a way to rework this script.
Mm.
I could be wrong on that one, but maybe they are. I kind of feel like that's what they did with the Bond movie as well, the last one. I think they saw the reactions to those first trailers, and they tried to rework the script a little bit, because it was not going down well.
Yeah, when people actually see the scripts, I think prime example of that one is the Powerpuff Girls one, if you remember that.
I'm not
So
too familiar with the Powerpuff Girls, I'm afraid.
yeah, the the live action Powerpuff Girls had this very agenda driven script. It's like more feminist stuff. So
Oh, okay.
I think that was the main reason why it got canceled because the script got out and no one really liked it. Even my friends were fan of the that IP. They said, "What the hell are they doing? What the hell is the script all about?" So let's
Yeah.
go ahead and at least ask you that same question. What does it take to for a person to actually write a good script? What are the basics that they need to remember?
Um, I mean, gosh, it's hard to speak in really general terms like
Or at
that.
least in what your if you're about to write your own story?
Yeah,
What
I
did
mean,
you
what do
look
I
for?
look for? It's like I want an emotionally satisfying story that's going to get me invested right off the bat and keep my interest throughout, all the way through. I want characters that I find likable and interesting that I want to know more about, and who actually behave in a consistent way throughout the story. Um, I want, yeah, I want that kind of that 3 act structure of rising tension, setbacks, action, and then the big grand finale with your kind of conclusion at the end of that. And I want something that's not there to lecture me, and try and tell me about the ills of the world,
Mm.
which is obviously what I've spoken about quite a lot on my channel. Yeah, I just want an old-fashioned, fun story, I suppose.
Yep.
That's doesn't seem like too much to ask for, but
No,
it
it
seems
is.
like really difficult nowadays.
Why do you think that's a problem here? Because let's say we're discussing Resident Evil a while ago. So Welcome to Raccoon City should have been an easy fix or an easy draw for these people.
Hmm.
What do you think went wrong there? Because you have a backing of information for 25 years, since the IP is already 25 years old at this point. You have all of the information, all of the characters, even the lore is already presented in front of you. What do you think went wrong there?
I think because Welcome to Raccoon City, I never got a sense that it was trying to pander to anyone. It wasn't a political movie, so
Mm,
that's not the reason it went wrong. I think the problem is you've got 2 different games, Resident Evil 1 and 2, and instead of just saying we're going to pick one of them and tell the story there, they tried to take both and mash them together into one script. And so they had to lose so much context for everything. They had to cut out so many different characters. And the ones that were left, they tried to like bend them around this new script, and it was really weird. Like Albert Wesker, who was the big villain in the early part of the Resident Evil series, big sinister guy who manipulates everything from behind the scenes. He wears
the
sunglasses.
the
Now
Sephiroth
they
Sephiroth character of Resident Evil, basically.
yeah, exactly. They turned him into this like just generic guy who doesn't really understand what's going on, and he's just been hired to retrieve some information, but he doesn't want to do it, and he doesn't want to betray his teammates, and then he just kind of dies, and it's such a waste of a character like that. I know they bring him back in like a post-credit scene, but again, that just has no context to it. It's like, oh,
Okay.
Albert Wesker wears sunglasses. Okay, let's do a post-credit scene where he puts sunglasses on, and like Ada Wong, she's cool. Okay, let's throw her in. She gives them to him. Yeah, great. That's you know, I'd said before that they probably wanted the plot for Resident Evil 1 to set the stage for everything, but they knew that it was going to be too slow and too dull to make an entire movie around it. And so they thought, right, we'll bring in Resident Evil 2 as well. Again, like I say, try and squish them together into one plot that's all happening at the same time. And they didn't have the resources, they didn't have enough time within the script. I don't think they had the budget to do good special effects. They didn't have enough money to hire good casting. Like the cast is weird. Nobody looks like their characters. Um,
Nobody acts like the characters also.
Pretty much, yeah.
Except for Chris.
Leon's like ridiculously incompetent. Yeah, Chris looks like Chris Redfield. That was a good acting choice. They found a decent guy for that. But again, now he's an orphan who was raised by the Umbrella Corporation, like, and he's kind of loyal to them. Like that has nothing to do with the
Nothing to do
games.
with, yeah.
So it's yeah, it fell apart just because of, I think, lack of skill, lack of storytelling ability, and lack of budget.
And I'm not sure if you're going to share the same sentiment that they try to ham Claire Redfield's character way too much. They try to make her a very powerful woman.
I think so, yeah, because
Yeah.
she's the driving force behind the first part of the movie, as I recall. Like she's been working with some undercover reporter to try and uncover what's been going on in Raccoon City, and she comes back to try and get that information. Chris just doesn't like understand anything, so she's trying to warn him of the danger, and he's like not interested in listening to her. So they kind of dumbed him down and made her like this driving force behind the heroic characters. Leon is just totally useless. Like he has no clue what he's doing. And again, the games did a better job of portraying these characters in a more balanced way, where they both have strengths and abilities. So
Mm.
yeah, it
I think
was
we're
weird.
this story would actually, if they continue, I hope not. This would be an actual story where Leon and Ada won't meet at all. Seems to be like that way based on what happened in this movie.
Yeah, and I can
Eh,
see why they left Ada out, because it would have just been too many
Too
characters to
much.
try and juggle. There's too much going
Mm,
on there to try and get into one movie script.
mm.
So if they do another one, they might try and bring in like Resident Evil 4, where Leon goes to like Europe and runs into Ada there. But I don't think they'll get a sequel. This cannot be making money.
At this point, I know you and As already talked about the earnings of this one, so it's already a month in, or even more.
Yeah,
Budget's 25 million. Right now, it stands at around 32 million earnings.
yeah. So
So,
it's gonna have to make at least 50 or 60 million to turn a profit.
mm,
Just going by the
and
usual rules of like Hollywood accounting.
yeah, let's talk about a little bit more Resident Evil. Did you watch Infinite Darkness or no?
No, I didn't actually. Which
It's
what is
part.
that?
It's the Netflix series of Resident Evil. It's not live action. It's animated. So that has
S-
a far better plot rather than this one.
See, I wanted to start watching those because there's a whole bunch of these CGI movies, aren't there, that
Yeah,
kind of fill in the gaps between games. Because I was starting to watch Resident Evil Degeneration,
that's good. Mhm.
which was, yeah, it wasn't too bad from what I was seeing. It really had the feel of the games still.
Mm-mm.
Excuse me.
Fine. Yeah. My consensus on this one, I've watched all of the animated movies so far, and they pretty much at least nail it out of the park as far as being closest to what the games are really are,
Yeah.
as opposed to, let's say, Paul Anderson's series, which doesn't even connect to anything. But I'm not sure if you're going to agree. I enjoyed those movies for what they are, because they didn't what they call this, they didn't pander to the fans. Like, this is something that would be straight out of Resident Evil. It's like he prioritized the casual fans first before the hardcore fans. I'm not sure if you're going to agree with that one.
I think that's like every time I speak to someone about those movies, that's pretty much what they say. I enjoyed them for what they were.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
they're
I
they're
think the
not good.
problem,
Yeah, they're not good.
no, I think the problem is they just got increasingly ridiculous and nonsensical as time went on, because it's almost like every time they made one, they expected that would be the last one. Like they would just have to call it a day, and somehow they kept making money, and so they had to be like, oh, okay, well we need to reset things. Like, at one point the virus has wiped out basically all life on Earth, and the Earth's just a desert. And they realized, well, we can't just have every film set in a desert. So they did like a crazy VR thing where they're in cities again. Like, Alice becomes so powerful that she's like Neo from the Matrix,
Yep.
and there's like an entire army of clones of her. And they thought,
Mm.
well, we can't have that because then it'll just be too easy. So they all get killed, and like she gets injected with some weird thing that takes all her powers away. It's just, it's really clunky.
Yeah, and also the last part in the final chapter, they, or at least the Red Queen, actually gave out the plot that her powers wasn't returned to her. I'm not sure if you've watched that
I've watched
movie.
all of them, yeah.
Yeah, a big letdown also, because at least we wanted to see what happened in the White House. That
Yes.
last part, they took it out probably because of budget, and that was a very big letdown. I also watched the EFAP on that one, where Mahler and the others just kept on laughing about the
Yeah.
fact that why Paul W.S. Anderson didn't even put any priority on that battle, because that's what the fans wanted. And speaking about what the fans want in a movie, um, how do you think we at least us fans would be able to change the trajectory of a failing franchise? What would be your opinion on that one?
Whoa. I mean, that's a tricky one because I'm not a big fan of just retconning things out of existence.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, like sometimes you just need to recognize this just hasn't worked, and we need to start over. You almost have to just say, right, forget everything. We're starting again from scratch. But it just depends on the franchise. Like if you were to put me in charge of Star Wars now and say, fix it, I genuinely wouldn't know where to start with it because it's so messed up now. Same with like the Terminator franchise.
Yeah.
After Dark Fate came out and tried to rewrite the whole series, how would I fix that? I think the only response would be I just have to forget that that film even happened and try and go back to an earlier point and work from there. It's really tricky. The first step towards at least getting something back on track, assuming it's like a franchise that can be salvaged, um, you just need to take a really honest look about what worked and what didn't work with your most recent movies. Like, why are fans turning away from this? Okay, we need to stop doing that thing, um, and try and find a way to reassure the fan base. Hey, we're just wanting to tell a good story. That's it. We just want to tell the best story we can. But yeah, it's a really difficult one. When franchises start to go down the tubes, it's really hard to bring them back.
Hmm. Yeah, it's also so hard to make that decision as well, because what if your version also fails? Am I right?
Yeah. Well, the
Mm,
Terminator franchise is a great example of that. Because they had the first three, which kind of kept to the same rough chronology. They did Salvation, which was set in the future, which is fine. It doesn't interfere with anything. It's its own thing. Then they went and did Terminator Genesis, which rewrites all the things that happened in the
yeah,
first from the
everything.
first movie onwards, really. That didn't work. Nobody liked it. So then they came back and did Dark Fate and said, okay, forget about everything that happened from Terminator 2 onwards. That's all just gone now, and we are just doing our own new timeline. And again, that didn't work. So you now have to wonder, well, what on earth would you do now with Terminator to try and get it back on track? Would you then have to
Mm.
pretend that Dark Fate never happened and Genesis never happens? Like, it's completely messed up.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
since we're talking about Terminator, what would be your fix on that one after Dark Fate, if you're given the project? So.
put a halt to all Terminator productions forever. Just don't do any more.
Yep.
I'm not even convinced it's the kind of concept that really can be done as a franchise. I was talking with Mahler about this, and my opinion is very much, look, every film is just a variation of the same idea. The Terminator sent back in time to kill a person, and you got to stop it and save that person.
Mm.
Terminator 2, as awesome as it was, it's one of my favorite movies ever. It's really just rehashing the plot of the first movie, but with like a different Terminator. That's essentially it.
Uh, I also don't know why they keep on changing John Connor's actor. So
Yeah,
it's like a different John Connor every time we see the new Terminator film. Different John Connor. Why? Why did you guys just stick with a great, or at least someone competent enough to be play that character all
I
the
think
way
the problem
through?
they had was like Edward Furlong played John Connor in Terminator 2, and he was really good. I think he basically had a lot of drug and alcohol problems, and so when it came time to do Terminator 3, they couldn't get him. Like he was in no fit state to be in a movie like that, and so they had to just recast the role. And then by the time you get to, I don't know, um, Terminator Salvation, he wouldn't, the ages wouldn't match up. He wouldn't have been the
Yep.
right age, and so again they had to get, I think, Christian Bale in for that. And then by the time you get way back to like Dark Fate, he was too old, and so they had
Yeah.
to just de-age him somehow and then kill him immediately, which again was a big old slap in the face for fans of the franchise. This guy that's been really important
Yeah.
throughout the whole thing. He's just dead now.
Like
Don't worry about it.
it's like you're just dangling keys all over the fence. Okay, let me just throw that away.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
now got a new John Connor, and it's a
No.
girl because
No.
of course it is.
Did you think the Predator series also suffered the same fate as the Terminator series, as being
Yeah,
running way too long?
absolutely. Absolutely. I guess there's a saying for most people, like there's only been two Terminator films, two Predator films, two Aliens films, and three Star Wars films, and that's it. You know, again with Predator, the most recent one, yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with that. You know, trying to bring like weird comedy elements into it. The
That did it.
you know,
It didn't even stick. The comedy part of there, it's like it's very bland and like it
yes,
felt very forced as well.
yeah,
And I don't understand the whole Iron Man thing with the suit. Oh, what? I was like scratching my head there. So the Predator wanted to give this to the humans in order for us to defend ourselves on the upcoming threat. But why did the Predator actually attack the humans
nothing in that
on
movie
that?
makes any sense. It's just nonsense. And I
Yeah.
think this was just a little bit of, yay, Iron Man's popular, so let's have an Iron Man type suit there, you know, and let's bait sequels and start an
Mm,
entire franchise of Predator movies, and we'll have like super powered humans in Iron Man armor taking on predators and flying through
mm,
the sky and shooting laser beams and all the rest of it, just like ridiculous stuff that
mm.
has nothing to do with
Nothing
Predator,
to do
but
with Predator. Yeah.
yeah, but they just thought, oh, well, that stuff's really cool right now, so maybe we can use it.
It's the old what was that saying? Throw everything to the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah,
I think that
throw a lot of shit against the wall.
same. I think same can be said with. I'm not sure if you watched the new Mortal Kombat as well. So there's no pandering on that movie, nothing at
No,
all. But it also failed. Being a fan of MK, I think I'm not sure what your opinion is or how you've tackled that one, but I think the original one, 1996 one, Paul W.S. Anderson was still far more superior.
I don't know if it was superior because it looks pretty ropey by today's standards,
Oh
but
yeah, definitely. Mm.
it was just a fun, goofy movie. Like I don't think anyone expected it to do well or as well as it did. And I don't think anyone really took it seriously. It was just meant to be like a just a fighting movie, really, with a loose plot to string it all together. It was probably like the first actual successful video game adaptation that I
Oh
can
yeah,
think of. Because they did other ones before that. They did like Mario Brothers and stuff, and that was a
it's a Street
disaster.
Fighter as well.
Yes, that was a fail. And yeah, Mortal Kombat did quite well, but I didn't mind the new movie. Like, I'm not deep into Mortal Kombat lore, so I don't know like all the different relations
Mm.
between the different characters. But it had some good fight scenes in it, so it's
Fight scenes,
fine.
yeah. Fight scenes, yep.
Much like the Resident Evil movies, I can just take it and enjoy it for what it was.
Yeah, I think what the at least fans like myself, Mortal Kombat, got turned off is the actual story of the new one started, and it's not even in the tournament as well. So you started killing off people, and it's still not the tournament. So what's gonna happen there? You guys are just gonna cast someone else again, pull someone else out, and you've killed major characters like Goro, Kano, which is also a mainstay. That or at least that aspect kind of turned me off from the movie.
Mm.
But action wise, it's far superior than the first one, and also great because you do have Joe Taslim there from the Raid. You watch the Raid,
The
first
Raid's
one.
fantastic. Yeah, excellent
Yeah.
movie.
Why do you also think these movies from Asia, or at least from our area, is getting a lot more traction right now compared to what's being produced by Hollywood?
Well, they're refreshing and they don't rely on CGI because I guess they don't have like huge budgets or anything.
Mm,
But you've got like if it's a film like The Raid, you've got a bunch of guys who actually can fight really well, who put in a lot of work to do really good choreography and probably take a lot of risks to get
yep.
stuff like that done. Um, and the end result is just a fantastic movie that's got real weight behind it. It's well done. It doesn't try and preach the message or anything like that. It's just a good story, and I think that's what you get with a lot of these East Asian films now. They don't have the same kind of cultural problems that we have over in the West. They're not consumed with trying to push politics or anything like that, and so they're freer to just tell fun stories. And so yeah, you combine that with guys who are just really inventive, really hardworking. You get great, enjoyable movies. You know, the other one that I was talking about not long ago was Train to
Train
Busan.
to Busan, yeah.
Great, really enjoyed it. Squid Game was another great example.
Mm. I think, at least by my standard, Train to Busan is the first one, at least. It's the best zombie-based movie that I've seen in this decade so
Yeah,
far.
yeah. I
Just
mean, I like 28 Days Later. I think that was
yeah, it
probably
is.
further back, but
Mm.
yeah, Train to Busan just it made zombies terrifying. They're fast, they're deadly. You know, the infection just spreads through this train so quickly, and you've got really likable characters.
They have
Again, you know,
the arc that, as you said, there's a hero's journey as well, or at least some
yes,
of it.
absolutely. And it's like
It's
redeeming the main character. He's quite detached and he's estranged from his kid. He's not really very involved in their life. And by the end, he's you know he's willing to do anything. And he dies a hero, I suppose.
yeah,
Um,
he did. Um, have you also watched the second one, or you have no plans on watching that one?
no, people told me not to. They just said like, it'll ruin your enjoyment.
It's basically like if you mix some parts of Train to Busan and also mix it with Fast and the Furious and some aspects of Mad Max,
Right.
that's the movie that you'll get. It's like this time around, because it's still the same director and scriptwriter. i- I'm not sure if this is the right term for it, but they are trying to penetrate the Western market, Western audience, and it just didn't work.
Yeah. It's almost like if I could give them advice on how to do
Mhm.
films like this, don't try and pander to Western audiences because the things that you think are pandering to them are probably going to turn them off. There's a reason people like in the West are starting to draw more and more towards you know Korean or Japanese filmmaking. It's precisely
Mm,
because it's a bit different from what we get,
mm.
and that's a good
What?
thing.
Yeah, what is the most recent Japanese film, or at least entertainment, that you enjoyed so far, if you
Uh,
remember of it?
what am I thinking of? See, a lot of them would be older ones, like Old Boy, for example.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed that one. I know it's not Japanese, but um, yeah, probably stuff like that. You know, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I really like that, and it's like Chinese, I think. Um, but yeah, like it's these films that have been kind of peppered throughout the past 10, 20 years that are now, I think, just starting to make more of an impact. I'm just trying to think of other stuff. Like, for example, well,
Battle Royale.
yes, Battle Royale,
Yeah,
another
yeah.
excellent one. Again, just really a great inventive concept, well done, well acted, great characters, and just well presented. You know, what we had over here recently was Cowboy Bebop. They tried to do
No.
like a yeah, they tried to do a live action adaptation of that
Yeah.
and they westernized it and it was a complete failure. Whereas people over here who are fans of it absolutely love the original exactly because it's not westernized. You know, and I
Yeah.
think there's something to be taken from that, I guess.
And they immediately canceled Cowboy Bebop for good reason, because
Yeah.
I'm also a fan of the anime series. Admittedly, I didn't finish it because it's a bit too long for my standard, but none of those stuff there really resonated with me. If you compare it from watching the anime, it's very far off from each other. So
Mhm.
it's like the same Netflix thing that we just like to take the existing IP and we're just going to inject our own ideas in this one, whether or not it will be aligning to the original timeline or original story that we have in the anime. We're just going to use it some sort of a vessel for us to push an agenda or whatever. And I think that's the reason why it failed. It
Very
really.
much, yeah.
Mhm.
Because it was going to have to appeal to fans of the original. And if you then take the original and start changing a bunch of stuff, fans aren't going to like it. So I don't even know who your show was meant to appeal to.
Maybe it's for them, each other.
Maybe, yeah, just pat each
Yeah.
other on the back and say, "Didn't we do a great job there?"
Yeah. Okay. So you did mention something that you're not a big fan of changing ethnicity of the character, especially for the established ones. Um, but there are some shows that it did work for the most part. Let's say this might be an unpopular opinion, but Idris Elba in Thor. I think his character there, Heimdall, was pretty much okay. So, in your end, why do you think changing ethnicity sometimes cheapens, or at least what is your opinion on that one?
I mean, it's an interesting one because Idris Elba is a great actor.
Yep.
And obviously with the comics at least, Asgard was obviously based all around Norse mythology. And so as I understand it, Heimdall was originally a white guy with red hair and a big beard and stuff. Um, but in the context of the MCU, okay, Asgard is a multi-ethnic society, kind of like Earth, I guess. And so you've established that rule is there, and so you can have people from any race or color or whatever um, playing these characters. So it's kind of a different setup. I'm still not a huge fan of it. I think I would rather that they'd stuck to the way the characters are meant to be, or the way the characters were originally written. But again, like I say, it's nothing against Idris Elba, and it's the same argument that I've heard for, well, he could play Bond. He could be the next James Bond. And my response is, well, no, because that's not how Bond was written. Like, Bond is very clearly described in his appearance. He's a white man. I think he's got dark hair. He's usually in his late 30s, early 40s, and I'm pretty sure he's got like blue eyes. So all those things are already defined about who he is, and that's why every actor that's played him has been roughly conforming to that appearance. Um, so yeah, I'm not a fan of just going in and, well, now he's a completely different person and he looks completely different. It just
Mhm.
doesn't really work for me. I would rather, if you want to create a spy character who's suave and sophisticated and does all that espionage stuff, but he's a different race, great, just create a new character and roll with that. And if he's good, if he's well written, he'll take off. But
Mhm.
don't just recast things as different ethnicities just for the sake of it. It doesn't ring true for me.
Yeah, I completely agree as well. And it it also shows the lack of creativity these people have, because instead of just creating your new hero, why do they keep on hijacking an established character and keep on changing their history? Meanwhile, we have fans here. Um, let's say for the most part, let's say a game character like Cloud Strife, and he becomes an Asian Cloud Strife,
Mhm.
which doesn't really resonate to me at all. And what I don't understand here, well, is people in these production companies and also directing companies, or whatever they call that, why do they lack the creativity? What do you think seems to be the problem with them?
Probably because they're hiring bad writers now.
Hmm.
They hire writers who just say that, they align politically with whatever ideology the company has, and that's the reason they get hired. And so they're usually, or at least a lot of them, seem to be activists, or they're that way inclined. And so when they obsess over their own personal politics, that's the way they see the world, and that's all they can really bring to the table creatively. It overrides their ability to come up with new ideas, and all they can do is just project their political
Hmm.
views into whatever they produce. And that's why they lack the ability to create interest in new characters. And I think they kind of know it a lot of the time. And so they know that whatever they can come up with is not going to be accepted and it's not going to be embraced. And so their solution is, well, we'll just take existing characters that are popular and we'll hijack them and we'll turn them into what I want them to be. And it's a really dirty way of writing. It's a really unpleasant thing to do because you're just completely altering characters that people are invested in, and I think that's very selfish. People in chat, like someone there is mentioning Blade. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
example of, like, I would never want to see Blade played by a white man because that's not the way the character is. That's not how he's written in the comics. That's not how he's been portrayed in the movies. Wesley Snipes, I
Mm.
think, did a great job as him. And the new guy that they've got, I think it's
Marshall
Masahala
Ali.
Ali.
Marshall
Marshala
Ali.
Ali.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks pretty good. So I would, again, they've kept his ethnicity consistent. And for that same reason, yeah, I wouldn't want to see him race swapped.
I also have a gripe there because Marshall Ali and Wesley Snipes are about the same age. So why did recast him as well? Why not just choose to stick with Wesley Snipes since you guys have the same age
I
and he's very
I think Wesley
athletic as
Snipes
well.
will be older. I could be wrong. Let me just.
He's around 3 or 5 years older, but yeah,
So Marshala, he is 47. I'm
mm,
pretty sure Wesley Snipes is pushing 60.
let's see.
Let's see. He
Fact check
is.
here. He's
Yeah, so he is
59.
59. Yeah, he's almost
But
60. So you're talking almost like a 15-year age gap between them. That's I guess that's going to be kind of important. Like when you get to 60, you're it's going to be tough to like start another franchise with you.
yeah.
He looks a lot younger than he is. I'll
Yes,
give him
he
that
is.
much. He's obviously still in great shape, but yeah, I think they would probably struggle to relaunch Blade as a character with him playing it.
Damn. I really love those first two movies as well.
Yeah,
Those first two movies are incredible. I didn't like Blade Trinity, but at least they have Reynolds there
yeah.
to
I think
save the
Reynolds
day.
pretty much carried the movie because apparently Wesley Snipes was being really difficult to work with, and
Mm,
um, yeah, like Reynolds had to take over a lot of his scenes because he just refused to come out of his trailer. So,
mm.
I mean, it worked out well for him, not so much for Wesley Snipes, but that's
Yeah.
the way it goes sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. And what else here? Also, the last Rambo film was a big letdown. They should have stopped Rambo as well. They should have ended that franchise.
I think so. I liked Rambo 4 when it was in Burma.
Yes. Mm,
I thought it was a pretty good movie. It
mm,
wasn't a very complex plot, but it never is. But the battle scenes were fantastic, and I thought it just rounded out the character nicely. He's returned to America. He's
mm.
gone back to his family's farm. He's come full circle. He's come home. That was enough to end it there. This last one just felt weird. It didn't feel like a Rambo movie in the slightest.
It's like an extreme Home Alone movie.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And
And
I
it,
never
it
really wanted to see Rambo fighting Mexican drug cartels. That's just a really weird thing for him to be doing.
oh yeah. And speaking of Home Alone, they're making another remake, I think.
Yeah. Remakes are the scourge of modern entertainment. They
Yeah.
absolutely are. I can
Okay.
understand if some movie, it had potential back in the day, but it turned out garbage. So you say, okay, let's have another crack at making that. Maybe we can do better
Mm,
this time. But if you want to remake something like Home Alone or Ghostbusters, for example, you're taking classic movies that are beloved. You're not going to be able to improve on them. And that's the only reason to do a remake, in my opinion, is if you think you can do better than the last time. You're not going to do better than last time. So what's the point?
mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, though, do you have also a list or at least one movie that you like remake in modern age right now, or totally not?
Nope. There's not a single one I can think of that I
No
want to see
trust.
remade. No, I just
Yeah.
don't trust Hollywood. Not now.
Mm-mm. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think it's basically it. So I'll just ask you some recommendations as well. Maybe we could trade recommendations right now.
Hmm.
What would be your list right now as far as the holidays concerned? Are there any particular movies you'll be watching, series that you'll be interested in watching this time of year? No.
I mean, I recommend Arcane. That was really good on Netflix.
Mm.
That
Arcane is actually big here in the Philippines because a lot of my friends also are into League of Legends and other gaming. They already watch Arcane except for me. Somehow I haven't gotten to watch it for some reason.
yeah. I mean, I came into Arcane knowing absolutely nothing about League of Legends. I think I even described it as like an online multiplayer shooter.
Yeah.
And people absolutely skewered me in the comments. I'm sorry, I just didn't know what it was. I just knew it was a game. But yeah, anyway, like that's really good. I'm like I say, I'm watching the anime of Cowboy Bebop at the moment. I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying a show called Midnight Mass, which is also on Netflix. That's been pretty good so far.
Mm,
It's been pretty decent. I'm going to go off and see Spider-Man: Homecoming on Saturday or tomorrow,
mm,
should I say?
tomorrow,
So
yeah.
yeah, so that well, hopefully it's going to be good. I've heard good things about it.
Mm.
And yeah, like
Um,
my classics over the holidays, like I've always got to watch Die Hard at Christmas. It's just the perfect film.
is it just one or all three of them?
I mean, all three are good. My
Mm,
favorite is the first one. Like that's the one that gets me in the Christmas spirit. Watching
yeah.
things explode and people get shot.
How about Lethal Weapon? No.
Yeah, yeah, pretty good.
Mm,
I don't see it as a Christmas movie really, but like I like the Lethal Weapon movies.
yeah. I'm a big fan of the first one, or at least just the first one. And it doesn't have a complex plot, but the chemistry between two of the main characters, Mel Gibson and also I forgot the name of the other guy,
Danny
Danny
Glover.
Glover. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really great compared to others have made in its time as well.
yeah,
Um, if you're looking forward in diving into at least mostly Asian stuff, I would recommend if you haven't watched it. Um, since I think you're also a fan of the Lord of the Rings, am I right?
yes, yeah.
I would recommend the Red Cliff.
The Red
That
Cliff.
yeah, if
Okay.
you're familiar with the game Dynasty Warriors, so
Oh yeah, that's an
it
old one, that isn't it?
yeah.
That was way
Yep.
back in the PlayStation days.
Yeah, I'll just show you something regarding it because it's a 4 hour movie. There's a cut here. They tried doing a cut for about 3 hours or two and a half, which didn't really sit well because there's a lot of aspects of the movie that should be shown what they call this in its entirety. So when they cut the movie into two parts, it was very long, but it's also very good. The director is John Woo.
Yeah, I
If
know
you're
him well.
familiar. Yep. And the main character here, at least, is what is his name? Tony Leung, which is also Wenwu. So
Oh
he's the
really?
main character. Yeah, he's the main character here, and
Oh yeah, of course.
we also have Zhang Si. I think a lot of guys in here. It's a very eccentric movie. 4 hours, well spent. It's two parts. Awesome.
Okay,
Yeah,
that sounds good.
yeah, it's really good. And another series I could recommend, or at least another movie, is available on Netflix. Is I keep on saying this in the comment section when you guys stream. If you guys get around watching Rurouni Kenshin or Samurai X, I'm not sure if you already seen that.
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's also anime based. They turned it into live action, and this is actually one of the best um, sorry, anime to live action conversion of a movie because it's pretty fun hack and slash, but it also has a compelling storyline. It's not very it doesn't take itself very serious except for the time that the characters need to be serious, and the anime also kicks ass as well. It's almost as close as the quality with Cowboy Bebop's anime.
Okay,
So the setting here is around after the shogunate. So the main character was a hired assassin, which is Kenshin, and he uses a reverse edge sword. He never used, or at least at the time that he's in the movie, he never used a real sword with a the traditional sword but it has the blade facing the enemy. No, he uses the reverse edge sword because he doesn't want to kill people.
okay,
So it's awesome fun as well. The action it's almost like raid, but not that brutal.
okay.
So yeah, I think that would be my recommendations just in case you're interested in diving into some anything out here in Asia.
No, that sounds good. I mean, I'm hoping like over the holiday period, I'm just going to have a bit of time off from YouTube. Take a week off and
Mm,
just enjoy some entertainment. I guess watch some films, watch some shows. and recharge for the new year.
Mm-mm. Okay. So before I let you go, well, I'm really thankful for your time that you spent here. And if people would like to also build their brand, I think we already talked this upstream. What would be um, your number one advice to people who would like to start doing this, or at least the stuff that you're doing?
Um, yeah, for me, I guess you get started by you find or you make note of what's important at the time, what's popular, what's trending, whether it's a film, a game, whatever, and you make a point of trying to address that. And you try to bring something to it that people might not have heard before. A different perspective or an insight or something like that. Because you need to give your channel, I guess, some kind of unique selling point that gives
Mm-hmm.
people a reason to go to it. And so that would probably be my biggest piece of advice. And I guess when it comes to dealing with people as you move forward, just always be fair with them, and always treat them fairly. Because yeah, it's if you make mistakes or whatever, or you're an asshole to people, that'll get remembered. So try and avoid that. I know it sounds obvious, but it's part and parcel of YouTube, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, I think that's it for us tonight. I've spent a great deal of time with Will here, and you're still selling the Ryan Drake series, am I correct?
Yeah, you can
As
get them
well.
all on
Okay.
Amazon. So yeah, they're
Okay.
all available.
Okay. So go check that out. Also, go for the people who's going to watch this, especially my local friends, who's one of them is a big fan of yours, and I don't think he's here because it's already midnight, but yeah, go follow Critical Drinker in YouTube. It's already here, and also the links in this description of the video. Sorry, I'm still my words right now. I've been awake for almost 24 hours. Yeah,
Oh, damn.
so he has a lot of content. So if you watch it, you'll get to know more about storytelling and also what makes classic movies great and how it contrasts with modern entertainment. And yeah, so anything going on for you this week? Is there an open bar this upcoming week or anything like
There
that?
is, yeah. We're going to be doing an open bar on Thursday next week. We'll probably be talking about Spider-Man because we'll all have seen it by then. It's going to be the last one before Christmas, so I'll be sure to have my Santa hat on, and yeah, we'll just have fun. And I think that'll be the last thing I do before Christmas, and then take a few days off, like I say.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for that one. Again, well, thanks for being here. On my end, I'll be hosting a podcast tomorrow, and our guest will be Comics Division. Will be visiting my other podcast. We'll be talking about the Great Reset and other political stuff out there. Yeah. So that's it for us tonight, today, or this afternoon, and I hope you guys also tune into Friday Night Tights as well. And take care. Godspeed. And as the drinker said, is it okay I say it, Will? Or would you
Yeah,
like to
do
say
man,
it?
do it, man, do it.
Okay. That's it for us tonight. Go away now. Take care.